happening, all? Welcome to Straight Shootin'. He's A.J. Reilly. I'm Matt Bassin. Thank you guys for joining with us. Before we get going and everything, gotta remind you to like and subscribe wherever you can find us. That'd be Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, DetroitSportsNation.com. All right, A.J. So I missed out on a big event last week.
You did.
I did.
You did.
But I got to spend the evening chatting with our fans, which is always a lot of fun and reminds me why we do this. They definitely make it, it's just, they make it worthwhile. So a big shout out and thank you to everyone who joined us last week, especially Paul Robinson, Charles Bosnak. You guys were a blast to talk to. I'm sorry, I can't remember everyone else. There's a Kevin also was out there, and then I'm sorry, I think there was another Paul or something, but so
there's too many Pauls.
Well, too many Pauls.
I'm
gonna give you PTSD, AJ. Give you a little.
Oh my goodness!
Give the fans a little PTSD.
Matt, I needed you there.
Yeah.
Just to sit in between me and Paul, because I don't know if you noticed, but I kept having to go like,
stop touching me.
Stop! Like, just man, there's got to be a bubble or something around, because my goodness, like, and listen, I love Paul Rochon to the depths of my soul, but my man likes to sit close, and it's too close for comfort sometimes. So, here's what I'm gonna say, Matt. We missed you, and I know that you reside in some state way down at the bottom of America, but I wish you would have been there, man. It would have been fantastic had you been there and helped me try to like rein in the insanity that was going on, because I mean, we were in JB's studio. It was comfortable. It was fun. Like, he's got this like Iron Man, Tony Stark glass screen that we were watching the draft on, and I mean, it was perfect. The only thing that would have made it more perfect would have been Matt Bassin joining us at the table.
Yeah, because I'd have been sitting on Paul's face so that he couldn't say anything for a while.
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, and it was funny watching it with because you guys were delayed. You know, the announcement of the draft picks was delayed for you guys.
Yeah, we were streaming it from JB's TV service, so we were a little bit behind.
Yeah.
And we kind of knew that, which is why we were like, don't ruin the picks for anybody, like, as we're sitting here. So we knew we were behind, but I mean, there were some picks that we could celebrate, other picks that we were like,
So I gotta say, I was a little surprised in the reactions that I saw from a few. I wasn't surprised by Paul's. Paul's I knew was coming.
No.
Dylan's I knew was coming. No. I was surprised by yours. I was surprised by Don's a little bit. Ryan.
Yeah. Don surprised me. I mean, he left the doggone room.
Yeah.
Left the room, and I was just like, whoa. And for a minute there, I was like, Don's pulling one over on us. Like, he's pulling one over on us. And then I was like, nah, he ain't that good of an actor, so he ain't pulling one over on us.
If he was that good of an actor, he'd win more at poker with us.
Yeah, you would think, but I mean, I'm not going to talk about poker because I tend to lose every time we play, so, especially to your wife. She freaking took all my money. Bad beats.
So let's get into it, because we've had a few shows on our network of shows that have already discussed these. You and I really haven't had the chance to discuss it. Obviously, I didn't miss out on saying anything because I wasn't there last week for the show. So I'm going to get my time in now. And I'm surprised at the negativity. So, look, the first pick that we got, Aidan Hutchinson. Obviously, everyone's very happy. I personally...
Yeah, can't be negative about that.
No, you can't. I personally wanted Kayvon Thibodeau, but I was under the belief that if we got one of these two, I think we were going to be okay. So whoever we ended up grabbing, I was okay with. As a Spartan, I will live with the fact that I have to root for a Michigan man wearing silver and Honolulu blue. And I mean, there's nothing not to like, unless you are really that hung up on his arms not. The man is 6'7". He's a beast.
Yeah, he's
an absolute beast. And yes, I understand for those that are like, the 1 year and the Georgia game, Michigan State game point out. First of all, y'all got to stop being so hung up on 2 games of a phenomenal season.
Yeah.
Okay? Michigan State and Georgia had the same game plan in mind. Do not let 97 ruin our game. And
right.
Michigan State kind of did it in the second half a lot better than the first half. Georgia just flat out did it. All right? They made damn sure that Aidan Hutchinson was not going to be the reason that they lost to Michigan. They shut him down.
Right.
They let David Ojabo be a David Ojabo, and he's good, but he's not great. Not yet. Aidan Hutchinson this year, much better player, much more disciplined, better at his job, fast, strong, gets to the quarterback. Look, you set the record at Michigan for sacks in a season. That's not an easy feat. All right?
No, it's not an easy feat. And that's why this pick was such a home run, right? Like, to your point, and I agree with you, and I felt the same way, even though I didn't really express it, but I wasn't a huge fan of Thibodeau, but at the same time, am I going to be upset that he's on my team? No,
right.
I'm not going to be upset that he's on my team. So either way, like, the Jaguars did the Lions a favor 100% by taking Trayvon Walker number 1 overall, which, hey, good for them. You had a relatively sneaky good draft trading back up for Devin Lloyd and all that, so like, I'm not going to hate on them too much, but it allowed the Lions then to just be like, let me race to the podium as fast as I can, piss off the NFL, and take Aidan Hutchinson. Which, some would criticize the process of that, which we've heard.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. If that's your guy, you don't necessarily need to listen to trade offers. That's your guy, you go get that guy. I have no problem with that. And I'm really excited to see what Hutchinson can do in a Lions jersey. 100%.
So I want to preface everything that I have already said about these draft picks, and I'm going to be saying about these draft picks. I am under the guise of one thing. We don't know anything. We have no idea how any of these guys' careers are going to pan out. Okay? But I am going under the assumption of hope that they are going to have great careers. Okay? Because we can say...
What's that 4-letter word?
That 4-letter word that we haven't heard much lately, hope, which I very rarely have had for the Detroit Lions.
Could you define that for us? Because I don't know if we know what hope is.
It's always looking on the bright side of life. I think is where the hope lies. And I haven't had much of it for the Lions in my life. They haven't given me much reason to. My hope started with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. For the first time ever, ever as an adult Lions fan, I actually liked what I saw for the head coach and for the new man in charge. And I wanted to see what they did. And I thought the first draft last year went really well. So I was hopeful for this draft and the moves that they were going to make or don't make to grab whoever they were going to grab. Okay? But for those that are mad at the Lions for not trading back, and AJ, you and I talked about this a lot pre-draft, of if your guy's not there, listen and trade back. Well, guess what? Their guy was there. Aidan Hutchinson was on the board, and Kayvon Thibodeau was on the board, and they knew who they wanted, and they went and got him. Now, let's not forget where these Lions are coming from. Okay, these Lions are coming from a bottom 5 in pressure percentage in each of the last 6 years. A defense that finished 29th last year in pressure and 30th in sacks. This is a bad defense, and it's a bad defense up front. And you and I, when we talked pre-draft, and you asked me what did I want from this draft, I said I want defense, and helping the running game. That was all I wanted from this draft. Well, but
you
2
wanted
picks,
trenches. That was it.
all but 2 of our picks were defense. So can I really complain when I got what I asked for? Not really.
Yeah, you can't, right? And listen, there's a point where you can give yourself analysis paralysis when it comes to the idea of should you trade back, should you not trade back, what's the process, should you be taking all, like, I was on a show earlier this week on Beyond the Box where we were not very favorable to this draft. And I'm going to stand by what I said because I'm not somebody that's going to, seesaw back and forth depending on who I'm talking with, because I have my own thoughts on that, and we can get into those thoughts as well as we kind of go back and forth. But the one thing that I do agree with is if your guy's there, take him. And you don't need to entertain trade offers. You don't, like, I don't want to reiterate everything that you're saying. That's why I think that the number 2 overall pick was absolutely the 100% A+ home run, grand slam, whatever, euphemism you want to use for that. That was it. And just watching Aidan Hutchinson itself should give us reason to be like, okay, it's at minimum, it's somebody to root for, right?
It's a hometown kid. How can you hate it? The kid's born and raised in Michigan, Dearborn, went to U of M, and now he gets to play for the team that he grew up, suffering through like the rest of us. All right, but let's get to the controversial one. I want to get to the controversial one, and that's our very next pick.
Yeah, I'm ready for this. Let's go.
The 12th pick in the first round, the Lions made a trade. They traded 32, 34, and 66 with Minnesota to get to 12 and 46.
Right.
Now, we have to reiterate this because people seem to be misunderstanding from what you said before. The trade itself, to get to 12, you are 100% with, correct?
Oh, yes. And listen, I don't want this to be AJ needs to make a public statement to recant everything that he said on Tuesday, right? Because it's not, and it's not going to be that. But I have always said the value of that trade was fantastic.
Right.
It's very rare that you're able to move up 20 spots twice and only just ship back one extra pick. Right? So according to our trade charts, and everybody wants to point to those, it was a great trade.
Right.
A great trade. And I have no problem with the trade.
Who they took.
My consternation comes a little bit from drafting a wide receiver in that spot. And I've been, there. My face is on a video where I'm very clear in saying that I don't see the value of Williams matching the value of the trade that you got and the pick that you picked him with. Because for me, the issue is wide receiver. I don't necessarily think that having or needing a wide receiver was as pressing of a need as everybody else thought that it was. And everybody else is entitled to their own opinion. It's my opinion that there were other receivers that could have been had later in the draft that would have been or would have allowed you to make a more valuable defensive pick at 12. And so for me, listen, I'm not going to back down from what I said earlier in the week. I don't necessarily care for Williams in that spot, but it's more the pick than it is the player. I hope, and I'm going to root for Jameson Williams like he's Calvin Johnson because I want him to be Calvin Johnson. I want him to take the top off of defenses. I want him to set the rookie record for yards and touchdowns and then threaten the record throughout his career and be a great wide receiver. I really do. I really hope that he is. You know why? Because he's a Lion. I just think that moving up to that pick, we may have made our team a little bit better had we focused on our more pressing needs, which was defense.
Right.
So for me, here's what I'm going to say. I'm done talking about Williams. I am. I'm done talking about him. I've said my piece, and I'm not going to back down on that piece, and I'll continue to, explain my reasoning if I need to. But here's what I want to say. He's a Lion. I love him because he's a Lion. I want him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year next year. And I want to have to get on here when the football season's over and say, you know what, Detroit Sports Nation? I was wrong. I was wrong. And I'll have no problem owning that.
Hang on.
I'll wear that like I'm wearing this sweatshirt right now. I will own it if I'm wrong.
Wrong about what?
About the value of that
pick.
So I have no... Listen, in the moment of that draft, the value was not good. in my opinion. If he goes out and lights the world on fire and he creates the value that could be there, then I'll be like, you know what? I was wrong.
Okay.
Good job, Brad Holmes. That's why I'm not running the team.
You understand there's a catch-22 with that, though. Because
I'm sure there is.
If he is setting the world on fire, if he is pulling a Justin Jefferson, something of that ilk, you know what that means for the quarterback throwing to him. He's not going anywhere.
No. Maybe. Because here's the thing, right? Jared Goff's probably not going to want to take a pay cut to sign an extension to be with the Lions. Unless it's the only job he can get. So, listen, I'm not a Jared Goff fan, and I don't want him to be the quarterback of the future. And maybe next year is not the year that he lights the world on fire. Maybe it's
second year.
Year 2, when Goff is no longer around.
A full year with
okay
a healthy knee.
So here's the thing, right? Like, it's easy to judge that pick in the moment, and I've done that. And I have no problem doing that because of what I perceive that value pick to be, especially when you need defense, especially when you tell me that for the last 6 years we've ranked way down the list in pressure. That tells me that we need to get pressure on the quarterback, so let's get players that can get pressure on the quarterback. And who was on the draft board at that time? Well, Kyle Hamilton was. He's not necessarily going to be somebody that's going to get you a lot of pressure, but he's going to help if you don't get to the quarterback in taking care of the back end of the defense.
Coverage sacks are very much a thing.
But you know, they are very much a thing. But you know who was on the board? Devin Lloyd. He can get after a quarterback. And I would have been great with that. Jordan Davis, I probably wouldn't have taken him at 12. I would have been less upset about it. But again, this is an in-the-moment thing, right? Analysis happens in the moment. So I hope that in a year, 2 years, maybe by year 4 of his contract, I'm like, I was wrong. And I will be the first to tell you, you know me, I have no problem owning when I'm wrong. I'll be wrong. It's okay. But right now, I don't think that I am. Just because of what I've seen other good franchises do, moving off of their receivers.
Right.
We spent a lot of draft capital to get one. And that makes me a little nervous.
Okay. So let me come back to that hope. Okay, because I'm trying to...
Yeah, please do.
You know, I see...
Because I am hopeful.
Look.
I am hopeful. I sense a little bit of difference with this team. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I do.
I know. So, with the Jameson Williams pick, okay, when it happened, and I was thinking about everything that was said later on by you and everyone else about how, you know, this wide receiver was available at this pick later on. We could have grabbed them without making any trade whatsoever and still used 32 and 34 to get the guys that we were perceiving were going to be long gone by this point. Because this was a very weird draft. This was a very weird draft. It was entertaining.
It was.
But, like, the names that were coming out in the first round, I was like, wait, what? Wait, who? Wait, what? Like, there was a lot of that in this draft. But again, we have no idea what these guys are going to be. There's been plenty of guys that had so-so college careers that went on to be Hall of Famers. There's plenty of Heisman winners that went on to be absolutely nothing. We don't know what these guys are going to be. So these are the guys that these front office people think are going to be that guy. Whether it was agreed by an analyst or not, we have no idea, and we will find out over the next 5-10 years. But when the Jameson Williams pick happened, I wasn't against it. On the side of me that wants us to have another Calvin Johnson. And I'm not saying he's going to be that, obviously. That's a big stretch. But we're seeing these guys come from the SEC, like a Justin Jefferson, like why can I not think Jamar Chase. Okay, that are just setting the world on fire. With one perceived to be with a great quarterback, and one perceived to be Kirk Cousins.
For sure.
Okay. And when Justin Jefferson got picked, the Eagles had a shot at him. And they went with Jalen Reagor instead. You know who Jalen Reagor is?
He played for USC, didn't he?
Honestly, I don't know. He might have. I have no idea. Because I have no reason to care, because the man has been an absolute terrible pro. And
potentially why they drafted Devonta Smith last year and traded for A.J. Brown this year.
Now, for the Lions to have a shot at a guy that is perceived to be of that ilk, left Ohio State because he was too low on the depth chart, believed in himself, and went to an SEC school and took off. Sound familiar?
Believed in himself.
Joe Burrow did the same thing. Left Ohio State because he wasn't getting what he wanted, went down to LSU, won a national championship, a Heisman, and was this close to winning the Super Bowl last year. If he had one more second, he hits Jamar Chase in stride, and our boy Matt Stafford doesn't have a Super Bowl. So
think about that, right? They had Jamar Chase, and we're that close to a Super Bowl. Does he have that extra second to hit T. Higgins or somebody of that nature if they had drafted Penei Sewell? You know what I'm saying? So, you're right, okay? You're right in the sense that, okay, Joe Burrow transferred from Ohio State. He went to an SEC school, won the national championship, and is, touted as the next great quarterback. I get all that, and I'm with you. I am. I just, in the moment, this is my thought and analysis. Right. And again, we don't know what they're going to be. You are correct. I don't have a crystal ball. It just, I need to see something, right? I need to see the value proved of why you took him, not he has elite speed. Great, guess what? He's in the NFL. Congratulations.
It's not just that he has elite speed. He has elite speed. He has crisp route running. He has great hands. He has the ability to be a difference maker at a position where the difference makers stand out by a wide margin.
They do, but how many wins do they add to your team?
Right.
That's
I get that.
Listen, I'm spiraling into cynicism, and that is not my disposition.
So let's get you back. Let's get you back on the hope train. You wanted that draft pick to go up and be defense. Well, on the very next pick, the Lions went back to defense, and they drafted another edge. Josh Pascal is not an edge. He is an offensive lineman. Okay. He's not an edge. They're not going to play him at the edge. They're going to put that man
he's gonna play on the
inside gaps where he can be a disruptor to go along with Aidan Hutchinson. And I understand it's a name that not a lot of people know. So they caught them by surprise. But we're talking about a guy who, again, is coming onto a team that last year allowed 27.5 points per game, 31st in the league. They need this help on the defensive side. And this is why I said before the draft, I want them to focus on defense. And after making that trade up to grab what they believe might be a generational talent in the wide receiver position or a joining of that ilk, they went right back to the defense. And they grabbed a guy to help what we have talked about before, building from the inside out, the trenches. They went right back to the trenches, and they grabbed a guy to play along with Aidan. He's not going to be fighting Aidan for the position. He's going to be playing inside while they let Aidan do what he does on the outside. And I think this draft choice, with the trade they made for Minnesota to get this pick, I think is going to surprise a lot of people when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I'm excited. Okay, there is hope, and I told you there is a little bit of a different feeling, not necessarily from Brad Holmes, and I don't want to smash on Brad Holmes because God knows we've done enough of that, right? So let it be, right? The draft happened last Thursday. We can't change anything about it. I'm not going to criticize him. The different feeling that I sense it comes from probably my favorite person in football right now, and that's Dan Campbell, right? And that draft pick seemed like a Dan Campbell draft pick. My only hesitation, and you know where I'm going to go with this, because I, for whatever reason, have the largest man crush on this guy, is Nakobe Dean was still there.
Right.
So that, if I'm going to criticize at all, and I'm not going to spiral into cynicism anymore, because I'm done with that. I'm a changed person, right? I just wanted Nakobe Dean in the Honolulu Blue. And maybe that's selfish. And maybe I need to be a little bit more fair and stop being in love with a player because, criticize Holmes for being locked in on a player. So I'm okay with the Pascal pick at this point. I didn't grade it very high on Beyond the Box. I'm not going to sit here and recant everything that I said earlier. My hope and what I'm looking forward to is seeing how this defense plays next year because I think it's going to be fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. And I think, look, the taking of a wide receiver who's coming off an ACL injury didn't bother me because, look, we're not drafting him to play game one. We have Josh Reynolds, DJ Chark, we have TJ Hawkinson, we have, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We have weapons. And that's, I think, another reason why people are mad that we grabbed another one. But none of those weapons are the same kind of wide receiver as Jameson Williams. None of those guys are the guys that take the top off the defense. And that's what he's going to end up becoming. But
Chark
on the defensive side, Chark's not that fast. He can do it time to time, but in the end, he's not going to. I think he's going to end up being more possession as well. We don't really have that one guy that's tall, fast, jump, hands, route running, all the combined that he can be. But anyway, back to the Pascal pick. Look, everything we're hearing afterwards, there's a reason Nakobe Dean fell. It's not just his height. It wouldn't be just his height is the reason he fell. They're talking about the shoulder. They don't know what's going on. There's got to be more to it that we're hearing. There's a reason he was passed up again and again and again. If you tell me it's just height, sure. I think everyone in the league's insane then. There's got to be something else that we really don't know still.
I personally believe that the shoulder injury is a smokescreen for the height, personally. But again, maybe
for all 32 teams?
Yeah, I mean, look, David Ojabo got taken in the second round by the Ravens with a much more recent blown-out Achilles. Mm-hmm. Tell me that's not a more significant injury than a strained pectoral muscle, shoulder injury.
No, I agree. Absolutely.
And you know what I mean? And so, like, maybe you don't get him because you need a linebacker to play right away. Like, that's fine. We're not going to talk about Nakobe Dean. You know why? Because he's going to be in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. I'm over it. I need to get over it. Okay? Let's talk about the Lions that are here. Let's have fun with the Lions that are going to be here because that's the team that we're going to be watching, and that's the team that we're going to be rooting to win. So, Pascal, welcome to Detroit. Sorry I graded you so low. It's only because I was in love with Nakobe Dean. I'm excited to see you wreak havoc in the backfield.
Okay. This is a guy with good size, has great flexibility, has played every position along the line. He knows how to play the game of football. He knows how to disrupt the passing game. That's really his specialty. Aidan Hutchinson is a do-it-all from the edge position. You're going to stop the run, you're going to stop the pass. He's going to be the Energizer Bunny on that side of it. But to have a guy up the middle that can cause this kind of disruption, because Aidan's not going to be up the middle. That's not going to happen. So Aidan's going to be wherever the tight end isn't. Tight end's on the right side, Aidan's going to be on the left side. Tight end's on the left side, he's going to be on the right side. He's going to be where the extra guy isn't, because his job is to be that fast athlete and get to the quarterback or to shut down the run. But a guy up the middle that can do the same thing in a different way, because he's not going to use the same kind of skill set that Aidan Hutchinson has. He's got a quick first step, but he's a powerful dude who's going to be job is going to be to push the line back in and push his way through. A 3-time captain, and look, I know sometimes that matters, sometimes it doesn't. But having leaders in the clubhouse is important to me on a place like Detroit where you are trying to change the culture. So you want the guys to get it.
The only thing that I just hope that he doesn't get caught in the wash, right? 6'3", 263, not a huge interior defensive lineman. Lucky for us, right? And this is something that I think we can kind of stash away. He doesn't need to play in that A gap. And he's not going to be playing in that A gap, right? He's probably, Hutch is a 9 technique defensive end. Well, you can't play an A gap in a 9 technique because you're given a whole heck of a hole for a linebacker to fill, right? Mm-hmm. So Pascal's going to be moved out a little bit and get into that guard tackle spot.
Right.
And, 3 technique, that situation, BC gap, whatever the case may be, that I think is going to allow him to not get caught in the wash, which hopefully, putting him and Hutch on the same side is going to be really, I think, beneficial. Because we talked about this prior to the show, right? And maybe this is a note that you have for later on. But the Lions are also switching their defensive philosophy a little bit and putting 4 guys on the line as opposed to 3.
Correct. So I'm not
you get that big beef guy to play that 1 technique opposite of Pascal, who's going to play probably a 3 technique, Okora on one side, Hutchinson on the other side. You got a pretty decent defensive line.
Yeah. No, so actually, let's get to that real quick just so people understand, because not everyone understands the game of football by the X's and O's, okay? But
Sure.
last year, the Lions used a 3-4-4 defense. But they have noted on several occasions this offseason that they are shifting to a 4-2-5, which is a version of a 4-3, because they think it better suits their players. A 4-3 means that there are 4 defensive linemen on the line of scrimmage. So you're going to have 2 guys on the inside, lining up between the offensive tackle and the guard, and then you're going to have the edge rushers who would line up on the outside of the offensive tackle. There are different variants to how they're going to line this up, but this is the mindset of the Lions saying we're going to switch to this kind of defense because we think it fits our team better with who we have on this team personally.
Which, that's like, you don't, well, it's not that you don't hear that often, right? But the ability to recognize that and to make that shift, that speaks volumes, in my opinion, to the type of coaching staff that's in Detroit, right? Now, is it going to work? We don't know, right? It's the same thing we say about prospects. We don't know what they're going to be. We don't know if this defensive adjustment's going to work. But look.
Can it be worse? Can it be worse?
It can't be worse. And arguably your weakest core in your defense is your linebackers. So you're getting less linebackers on the field. And more athletic guys on the field. You know, you're going to play with
5 defensive backs?
4-2-5. Yeah, you're going to play with 5 defensive backs, and one of those guys is going to be a walk-down safety. You saw this a lot at U of M when Jabril Peppers was there. He played that Viper position that they called it, right, where he would walk down, could float back, right? So you hope that it's a good adjustment. And, look, knowing that and then looking at the draft that they had, it does make a lot more sense.
Right. So how you feel about having a 6'1" safety / cornerback with a 6'8" wingspan to be able to get up there and knock those balls away?
Look, again, right? He was the pick at 97, right? So you're talking about Kirby Joseph.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't have it right in front of me, but I just wanted to make sure I was correct. You need help in the back end. You got Tracy Walker. You got the kid you signed from Baltimore. So maybe one of those guys is going to walk down more into the box to play that 5th, like, kind of nickel role on the defense. So, I mean, it's not a bad pick.
Look,
it's not a bad pick.
It's a pick that not as many people know about, and so they're not sure what they're getting. But look, Joseph...
And, I mean, he played at Illinois, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's...
Yeah, not on a great team.
Not that... No, but doesn't mean he's not a good player.
Right.
And, you know, my draft grades from the other night were all skewed by value. Mm-hmm. And if we get off the value train a little bit and we look at, you know, let's be excited. I'm trying to... I had my therapy session the other night, right? And I got it off my chest. So now I'm kind of like, listen, there's nothing I can do to change this. These are the guys that we have, and there are guys. And
so get on board.
A 6'1" safety with a 6'8" wingspan.
6'8" wingspan, whose job is ball hawking, athletic. And he's pretty good at that.
Yeah, I mean, he had a number of interceptions last season, too. Look, so that's good.
When it comes to covering, we need help. Stopping the deep ball, cut through the slots. We need guys that can actually cover. And look, is Kirby the best, cornerback to come out of the draft? Probably not. But he was ranked up there in the top 10, top 5. I love a guy with a long wingspan whose job is to swipe balls away, whether it's to stop the receiver altogether from catching it or picking it off. Either way, having those extra long arms on an already tall-ish, yeah, they're the 6'3" safeties out there, 6'4" sometimes, but like 6'1" with a 6'8" wingspan, I will absolutely take it. He already has an NFL frame. He wraps up when he tackles. He's not a hard hitter. He's not going to give you those, those ooh moments where you're going to have concussions afterwards, which drive me nuts. I would much rather have a guy that wraps up and tackles and makes sure the guy's not going anywhere when he gets them.
You sound like a coach.
That's one of the things that's always driven me nuts is with the guys that go for the big hit. And great, and the guy just bounced off you and ran for an extra 25 yards. Wrap your arms around the guy and take him to the ground. That's your job.
I agree.
And this guy is good at that. And he has shown that he might have the ability eventually to be a lockdown corner. It's nothing we're going to see right away. But he's got good instincts. He plays well close to the ball, and those long arms will absolutely make up for his slight lack of height.
Do you think that he's going to play corner, though? They drafted
Probably
him
safety.
as a safety. I think.
But
yeah, I was going to say
safety to start. I don't know. He might make the transition, but it all comes down to if he can become a lockdown. If you can become a lockdown, why are you playing free safety? Why not stick on the man from the get-go and stay with him if you're going to be that kind of corner? So we'll see. How he plays will determine that, I think. We'll see.
We'll see. Well, again, isn't this kind of like the whole approach at this point is, okay, we've had the draft, we've said our piece, now it's just time to, like, watch and see what happens and be pleasantly surprised or, not.
Like I said, I got nothing but hope here that I'm going to be pleasantly surprised for the first time as a Lions fan, basically in my life. So here's my trepidation with that, okay?
And this is maybe a little bit more therapy, but, like, I tend to be an eternal optimist when it comes to Detroit sports.
Which is why I was very sad watching you the other night.
Sure, I get that, but I've been burned so many times by the Honolulu Blue. And some of it not even their fault, right? Like, when we talk about the playoff game in Dallas, that was literally, they snatched defeat from the claws of victory, right? So I'm a little bit more trepidatious. Yes, I want to see, and yes, I want to hope. But at the same time, I don't really want them to win next year. Is that weird?
No, it's not weird. And I'm of the same ilk. Look, I want them to perform. Don't get embarrassed.
Yeah, sure. I want them to
be in the games. But I still want a top 5 pick in next year's draft. Unless they are going to find a way to bring a known winning quarterback to Detroit, which is never going to happen. And I want to get this. I want this to be known for the audience. I am not actively rooting for Jared Goff to fail. I would love for Jared Goff to all of a sudden turn into the man he was for one season in Los Angeles. Because he was it for one season, and he got paid off of that one season. But he has shown more often than not to not be that guy. I would love for him to make a transitional shift to be that guy. I don't see it happening. I hope he proves me wrong, and then we're all loving the fact that he's our quarterback for a decade. But I don't see it happening. So I want to bring in the guy that will do it.
Yeah, listen, I don't even know what to think about Jared Goff, to be honest with you. Like, that one season that he had was built on the best running back in the league at the time.
Yep, and a really good defense.
Since he hasn't had that, he's been average, which is fine. We don't need a great quarterback right now. We need somebody that can get the ball to the playmakers, which we drafted. So, I mean, that's his job at this point. We don't need Jared Goff to set the world on fire. What we need him to do is manage a game and get the ball to where it needs to be. I just don't know if he's capable of that. I'm not, like, there's some people that believe that he could be the franchise, and, like, this draft was, like, the Lions committing to him. I don't know if I would go that far. I still think that he's the bridge to the next guy.
You build a good football team regardless of who your quarterback is. Whether you have the best quarterback in the league,
truly rebuilding a team, you build the team first and then get your great quarterback. You've seen that in Denver, right? Denver did that. Denver's going to be very good this year because all they really lacked was a quarterback. And so when you talk about bringing in a winning quarterback maybe next year or what, like, the Lions aren't that close yet. And that's not, I'm not trying to be cynical. It's just they're not close like the Broncos are, where you could just trade draft picks to bring in that quarterback, right? So, like, that's not on the table this year. I think that you hope that they have a I mean, they were 3-13-1 last year. You hope maybe they get around that 6-7 win mark,
6-11,
maybe
yeah.
draft around
7-10.
8-9, and hope like a Bryce Young or a JT Daniels. Or, I mean, somebody made this point, I think, on one of our posts, that at the beginning of the year last year, Spencer Rattler was considered to be the number one quarterback overall. That was going to be taken this year, right? Because he was rumored to the Lions, and I was just like, oh my gosh, please no. So right now it's JT Daniels, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. Those are kind of like the top three that you would think going into the college football season. We have no idea who's about to pop onto the scene and be the Malik Willis, right, or the Kenny Pickett in next year's draft. So I don't want to like make any assumptions. I just want to hope that we're picking again in the top 10 somewhere that we could get that guy.
Right. No, I absolutely agree. And so when I say I want a winning quarterback to come in, I mean that unless you are going to get one of those names that we all know, which is never going to happen. So do what you've been doing. Build a good team, regardless of who is taking the snaps for this team at the time. And eventually, but it's got to be in the next 3 years, I think, for that eventually, you've got to get your quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. I hope it's not J.T. Daniels. I watched this fool at USC, didn't like him there, watched him at Georgia, saw him lose his job there too. Like, I don't see how he's going to end up becoming that guy.
And truthfully, I hope it's not C.J. Stroud either, because Ohio State quarterbacks do not have a great track record
in the NFL so far. Nope.
No, so
neither of the Bama ones really. They're starting to a little bit.
Well, Mac had a pretty good rookie season.
That was a different kind of team. He didn't have to do. It was a low key what Jared Goff did their Super Bowl year for the Rams. They had a good running attack.
Sure.
Had a semi decent defense, and Mac's job was don't mess it up so much.
So here's the last thing, and then we'll move on because I know that we're getting towards the end here. But I think if you see vast improvement, right? Maybe not necessarily in the win column, because again, we kind of want that top 10 draft pick next year, just to help foster the rebuild. And who knows? We have another first round pick next year too. If the Rams completely blow up, we could end up with 2 top 10 picks. I'm not saying that's going to happen.
That is very wishful thinking. For the Rams to go that bad, that's wishful thinking. Might happen. Injuries happen. I mean, stuff happens.
Exactly, right? You don't know. You could definitely end up with 2 top 15 picks, right? So here's what I think. Here's what I think the best path forward is. You show improvement. Dan Campbell is secure in his job, right? Because the team is improving. They're building a good team. And people, I mean, you heard Teddy Bridgewater in Denver say, that's a guy I would play for. If Teddy Bridgewater's saying that about Dan Campbell, because he played, under him when he was in New Orleans, you've got to imagine that there's going to be other free agents or potential quarterback targets that are like, yeah, I'll go to Detroit just to play for Dan Campbell. And that's important. Detroit's never been a free agent destination. Maybe Dan Campbell creates that for us.
Hard Knocks, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
Use Hard Knocks as a marketing tool.
The most quotable man in the NFL just got an HBO special, and it's going to be insane.
It's going to be fantastic, and we're gonna see Dan Campbell being Dan Campbell. It's going to be a marketing tool for the Detroit Lions to bring players in for the next few years.
I think so.
All right, so don't forget, AJ, hope. There's a lot of reason for hope. This was not a terrible draft. There was a lot of possibilities for who was drafted and how they can help this team going forward. And that includes Jameson Williams.
Maybe.
All right. We got to call it. It's been long enough. We'll be back at it again in a few days. He's A.J. Reilly. I'm Matt Bassin. Thank you for joining us on Straight Shootin'. Hope, people. Hope. We'll see you guys again real soon.
I'ma get it, you know I be on the way.